just a small town girl with a big old dream. Now she's taking it over and making a scene. Yes, it's your turn next, so please take your seat, 'cause baby, the best is yet to be seen. Good morning, sunshine. Good morning,
Sunshine's Corner, being brought to you by Quint and Richie Studer.
Sunshine's Corner.
And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into Sunshine's Corner, where purpose meets power and conversation creates change. I am your host, Sunshine, and today we have an important conversation about the future of Pensacola. Joining us is Miss Jasmine Brown. She's a candidate for mayor right here in Pensacola. Jasmine is running for a vision of addressing the challenges faced in our city through our community with engagement, economic opportunity, and a commitment to creating meaningful change. Today, we're going to discuss her campaign, her priorities, that Pensacola that's needed right here, and why she believes now is the time for a new approach to new leadership. Whether you agree or disagree, Sunshine's Corner is committed to providing a platform for real conversation about the issues that matters most to our community. So join me in welcoming Ms. Jasmine Brown to Sunshine's Corner. Good morning, Jasmine.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for coming in today, and I'll tell you, I appreciate you, because when I talked to you, we were texting so much the other night, but I appreciate you. And I appreciate the fact that you are taking the step to make a change right here in Pensacola. What is it, number one? Tell me who Jasmine is. Tell me about Jasmine. I want to know Jasmine.
Well, again, thank you for having me on today. You know, I'm born and raised in Pensacola. I've lived here my whole life, but I lived, on the west side by Bellevue.
Mm-hmm.
And so I, just been here my whole life, and my parents such hard workers, and just growing up having so many different jobs. I've worked so many different jobs. I used to work with my dad doing lawn service. I used to cut the grass with him sometimes. I've been a server at restaurants. I've worked in housekeeping at hotels, front desk at hotels, been an administrative assistant, and now I'm an advisor at PSC. And so, over time, I've kind of just been done a lot of observing. I kind of kept to myself and just observed over time. And so, seeing my parents work so much, but still, worry about bills. Being at different jobs, we're seeing the worst, not the worst, but the jobs where people got the worst pay, they had the most taxing positions. And just really seeing people go through life in a way that didn't make sense, kind of spurred a lot.
You said a mouthful then.
Yeah, it kind of just made me consider, what's wrong? Like, why, when we have so much, when there's so many resources, when I feel like, we're in a place where we can research things, and, we should be in a place where people are not suffering when we have these many resources at this point in life, in the year 2026, and so, at this point. And so, I started organizing. I used to just be angry all the time, just be like, I don't know what's wrong with the world. I used to just be online as a teenager, like, this sucks, the world sucks. I don't know what I could do to change this world, so the world just sucks. And then, I get older, and, summer of 2020, the Black Lives Matter protests, the movement was just very high. And even at that point, I didn't know what I could do. I just, it was my first protest I attended. And at that point still, I was just like, I'm just at this protest. I'm here, but I'm not present.
You're not engaged in it.
I'm not conscious of really what it is we're doing.
Right.
And then, fast forward to 2021, I think, is when the city was considering the contract with FPL.
Right.
And that's when I actually got engaged. And so at that point and on, it's just been like a snowball of just more community involvement, engaging in different areas, different ways. Organizing with different groups, learning so much. I have learned so much ever since I started organizing. And so I've gotten to this point, talked to so many people in the city, done so many different campaigns during outreach, going up to local leadership and speaking at, meetings and whatnot. And it culminated into running for office. So.
I got you. Well, I did a lot of research. I went around lots of positive things that were said about you. I want to encourage you. And what I really, really encourage is our young tomorrows to take hope right now. You see how the world is today, and I think we need more leadership, young, so they can bring on some of the new things that are brought right there to us because of how the world is today. When it comes to the mayor, as a young woman of color, and when I spoke with you and I was talking to people about you, that just made me smile really big. A young lady looked like she's 19, and but she said, "No, I'm not 19." But a woman of color, what unique perspective do you see that you can bring to the table that's not being done now, that's more beneficial for the community?
Yeah, that's a good question. I will say that I have a unique perspective running in this race, and I'm able to reach a lot of corners of the community that may not have been reached before intentionally as it comes to running campaigns. You know,
I'm not gonna cut you off, but you said intentional. There are some places that were not done intentional, you think?
Yeah, so what I mean by that is this campaign, I'm not looking to people in the community as voters. I'm just looking at the people in the community.
I got you.
And so I want to go to the people who may not have been previously engaged in voting in local elections or even national elections because they don't feel like they actually have a voice. They don't feel like their opinion matters. Their opinion hasn't been asked. I've talked to people and door to door to them, and they've been like, well, nobody's ever asked me this question before, and they don't feel engaged. And so I think that, you know, whereas we have a sector of leadership who might prefer to brag about the most expensive accolades and the most luxurious, you know, accolades of the city.
You can be frank here. Just tell me what you really feel.
I'm talking to people who are cramming into their, you know, two room apartment because they can't find anywhere else to rent. I'm talking to people who are having to walk to work in areas of town that don't have sidewalks. And so I think what I want to do with this campaign is to lift up the underbelly of the city rather than approaching people who are already, those people are still obviously important and want to engage with people who are already active, but we want to uplift the people and empower people and give them the confidence. People who have not been previously engaged, educate them so we can get more people involved with the not just the political process, not just during an election season, but you know, year round, whenever there is any major decisions being made in the city, how can we empower you to know that, or even, you know, take you to these meetings, discuss and synthesize what the meetings were about. You know, it's not enough to just have, you know, a website with information. Not everybody can read. I've done door-to-door.
I've said that a lot of times.
I've done door-to-door campaigning before, talking about like people's housing situations, how they feel about FPL and just various other initiatives.
I mean, with you being such a young lady, and I think that with the new perspective, because what I had decided to do was I was asking more of your generation to come on to share what you're feeling. And you said a couple of things right then that caught my attention when you said that you don't feel as if you are into, they don't know what's really going on because they feel as if they're not inclusive into what's happening in the world today. Okay, this is what you got, so deal with it.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
So, okay, we're gonna give you this, not what I want, but I'm gonna give you this. And that's what I hear what you're saying, that you wanna break that link. Because do you think that's a lack of knowing a culture? Knowing the different cultures? Or what do you think that's a lack of? Do you think that what the world is doing today, is that a lack of it is trying to take them backward and not move them forward? When I say backward, you know what's going on in the world today.
Yeah.
Do you think that's what's happening?
There's two thoughts that I have towards this. One thought is that where we have come from, you know, sometimes people are like, what is America turning into? What is the city turning into? And it's like, it's because we've been stripped of our history. We don't know how severe our history has been to where this isn't something new necessarily. It's taking on a new character.
Exactly.
And then this other thought is that, yes, you know, there is an effort to turn these things back, you know, pre-civil rights movement. The civil rights movement, with a lot of the gains and wins that were won during that time period, really was a revolution of sorts. I mean, it changed, you know, what private owners could, how they could facilitate their business. It changed voting rights. It changed, you know, how federal agencies operate. Like it changed a lot. And
You're
so
where you are because of that.
Yes, and so, you know, there's been a disconnect in our history. There's been a disconnect in passing down like the legacy of the people who stand before me. I know people say to me very often, they're like, I love that you young people, you know,
Exactly.
I love to see y'all out here. And, you know, we're not starting anything new. I'm not starting anything new. Again, I've learned so much ever since I started organizing to where I've learned more of the history that we've been stripped of. You know, Pensacola has such a rich history of organizing, of civil rights leadership. And so I just think of it as like reconnecting those struggles, reconnecting the movements, and just continuing it on.
I got you.
And so, yes, there is an attempt to go back to prior, but once we know our history and once we do better with that history, then we can we can bridge that gap again.
Exactly. I love that. You know, I'm listening to you because I'm looking at you because I told her when I looked at her, I thought she was 19. She sent me this picture. I said, God, she's a baby. But the fact that you recognize what's happening with you running for political seat, I think that's a great step. And if we can encourage more people such as you, how can we get your generation to vote?
That's a good question.
What can we do to make sure that you vote? And I say that over and over because that's the first step of being heard. Because you determine, I always say this, we hire, we fire. When you vote them in, you hire them. But if they don't do what you want, you can vote them out and fire them. But what I'm saying to you is this, how can we get your generation to realize how important it is to vote? Don't say, well, it doesn't matter. Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
Because without that, and as you see, every broadcast that you see on TV, everything that you read in the paper, everything you hear on a podcast, everything you hear in every type media there is. And another thing, they're trying to strip away black media because of the fact that the strong disobey. But what black people are doing now is creating their own. And I think that's what we should do in a lot of things. How can we get that to resonate? How strong it is to to go vote.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? What would you suggest that we get the younger people involved so they'll want to vote, so they'll understand that it does matter to be heard by voting?
Yeah. I like what you said. Basically, make them want to vote. I think, you know, also what you said earlier about like what we have been given. There's not. I think overall, from what I've experienced and what I've seen with people and what I felt myself, there's a lot of apathy. There's a lot of nihilism when it comes to the outlook of our world. And so when people are thinking of voting and they hear from their parents, you know, they voted this way, they voted this way, they voted so much, and our conditions are not fundamentally changing. And so there's not an incentive to vote when you don't think anything's going to change with your vote. And voting is incredibly important, and I encourage people to do it. I mean, I vote myself whenever
you have to.
We have to vote. It is a tool for reform. It's a tool for getting people in office that you resonate with their platform. It's important, and we do need people to vote. But with getting people to want to vote, I'll say one thing with that is that, you know, if you are voting for a particular office and then you are let down repeatedly, you might not be incentivized to keep voting. If you can't take off work that day, you might not be able to vote. And yes, we do have mail-in ballots. People can do that and ahead of time, absolutely. But, you know, I just talked to people, you know, I was talking to people before the presidential campaign, and there was so much, it wasn't careless. There's like a disempowerment with people. I mean, our vote is important, and it's so important that the you know, leadership is making it harder to vote, and, you know, creating more hurdles and gerrymandering and things like that, rewriting lines. And so, you know, I think when we talk to people, I think we can encourage people to vote by saying that voting is not the only tool that we have. Because if you
hold that right there, we gotta go. I gotta go take a break.
Yeah, no
but what we're gonna do is, so when we come back, I want to go back to the importance of voting because of. I like to say this. You're a grown woman, right?
Yes.
You like your mom and dad making all the decisions for you?
Nope.
Okay then, if you don't vote, that's what you're doing. You let mom and dad decide for you.
Yep.
So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about that when we return right here on Sunshine's Corner.
I learned during my military service to train every day to fight and fight to win. If you've been injured in an accident, you already know one thing for sure. The insurance companies are going to fight you for every dollar you deserve. At Michelson Booth, we settle most of the cases we handle. But if the insurance companies choose to fight, well, we're okay with that too. If you've been injured in an accident, choose a law firm that's got the resources, training, and stomach for the fight. Michelson Booth. Don't be a victim twice.
Nestled in the heart of Pensacola, Dorothy's is a one-of-a-kind, community-driven cocktail bar by Oasis, Florida, created to sustain vital HIV and STI care across the Florida Panhandle. Inspired by the Wizard of Oz, rooted in inclusion and dripping with character, Dorothy's is a welcoming space with award-winning Oz-inspired cocktails, food by Steel Pony Diner, and an unmatched atmosphere. Join us 7 days a week in downtown Pensacola, located directly across from Maritime Park and the Blue Wahoo Stadium.
Step into your hometown boot store right here in Pensacola, Florida. The largest selections of Western boots and attire, including our own style of custom Anderson bean. The boot store also carries a great selection on workwear from boots to fire-resistant clothing. When you're looking for authentic wear, accompanied with authentic service, show up at your hometown boot store where you're more like family than you are a customer. And remember, the savings and selection are found behind the big red boot.
At FPL, we plan for storm season all year long. We're strengthening poles to better withstand severe weather. We're clearing lines to improve resiliency, and we're constantly training teams to act at a moment's notice. Because we're always working, always preparing. So when storms do hit, you can count on us. FPL, working for you every single day.
And welcome back to Sunshine's Corner. We're having a conversation today with Ms. Jasmine Brown. She's a candidate for mayor here in our city, and that's coming up this year. Woo!
Yep.
And I really want to congratulate you to really to just motivate you to continue on with the fight, because it is a fight.
Yes.
It will be a fight, I mean, all the way to the end. And I say this, we're talking about with getting the younger generation to know the importance of voting. And you said that you were out one night and you were in a place and this young lady was talking about voting. So, I mean, okay, now, on a platform like that, could you not take that platform and get up and say, look, let me have the microphone for a moment, let me show you how important it is? I mean, because I think that's what it's going to take. Because of the fact, I point this out to everybody. If our vote were not so important, why are you trying to take it away?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That speaks volumes within itself. We've got to realize, younger people especially, because the mantle has to be passed. We've got to pass that torch right on to you so you can carry that mantle on your back, so that even in the future, if you think this is tough, if we don't take on this fight now and stop this, what do you think it's going to be 10 years from now?
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying?
Mm.
So what my point of asking you that is, and I want all of our people that are watching today to realize, if we got to take a different approach to get them, but there's something come up that we're going to be doing to get you all in to talk to. We're going to announce that here in a few weeks. Had a couple of meetings, and but it's something that I think it's something that you all relate to more, instead of the John Lewis, how they walked across the bridge, all the fighting they had to do. But the fight is still here, but we're going to do something that's going to reach out to you, mostly the younger people, to get them to, we can just talk to you so we can get you encouraged to vote. Especially we got the primary coming up on the 18th of August, and you got the general election. So it's time for that. Why is it the time right now? Why is it so important to you right now that you run for mayor?
Yeah, so it's so important that we be creative with our approaches, and that we throw the dart at the board sometimes. Sometimes you attempt some type of engagement and one person shows up. Sometimes you try something and hundreds of people show up, and so it's gonna take with voting it's gonna take us being creative and reaching people where they are. Right now in the city, and honestly, it's felt across the state, across the country. We are in such a crisis point with housing, with lack of safe and security with our schools remaining open. We're in constant conflict. We don't get to choose when we go to war, and we're in constant conflict that raises all of our resources that we need, our gas, our utility prices continue to go up. And we are just in such a time where people are looking for answers, people are looking for alternatives, and people are looking for ways that they can also get involved to change the world around them. One of my favorite things I heard, my fiance actually, whenever we were dating, it was when we went to city council together for the FPL to not get the FPL contract, but. One of the things that he had to grapple with was he felt like he had to be the person, like the Superman. We learn about all of our historical leaders, we have these big names, but we also don't learn about the dozens and hundreds of other people who organized right along with them. We don't learn about them. And those people also were important cogs in our historical movements. And so he was just grappling with feeling like he wasn't doing enough, and he spoke to somebody. She said, "Pick up a broom, just pick up a broom." And so, right now, a lot of people are looking for how they can get plugged in because they are feeling the weight of everything. Everything right now is bearing down on us, truly. And so, it was so important, I think, with people really needing some hope, needing some information, needing some to have resources and know how you can get plugged in. And how you can vote in this election to have an option that wants a better vision for Pensacola, that wants a different, not just better, but an entirely different vision of Pensacola, where we actually have, tenants are empowered, students are empowered. We have, more avenues for people to have structure to make the decisions in the city rather than being consulted after the fact, rather than being considered after the fact. We are setting forth the agenda.
Why do you think that is? Be real. Why do you think that is?
I think why
when they make this, then they'll come tell you afterwards.
Yeah. It falls where our interests lie. We go and I've spoken to people and been like, if you had the city's budget right now, what are the top 3 things you would prioritize? And people will say low and affordable housing. They would say paying our teachers more. And they would say more like programs for our youth and our elderly. I've heard those top three things most of the time. And we don't see the sense of urgency that we do with like our beautification projects, with our luxury developments, with things like that. We don't see that represented in the urgency that's required for the crises that we face on a day-to-day basis, with our wages not keeping up with our utility and our housing prices, with our increasing homeless population. Our increase in, we have a major opioid and fentanyl crisis in the city. We're not in
at the top.
So yeah, we're not seeing the same sense of urgency being placed in the different areas. So the people of the city, are voicing these concerns, but we see the plans and the immediate changes, quickly going towards serving different interests. And I think that's why it is because once the people start speaking up, across the country, we're seeing people speaking out against data centers, people wanting to get flock out of their city and managing to do those things. We're seeing people like in Atlanta specifically a couple years ago, they are still doing it, but they're building this big Cop City training facility that thousands of the people in the city mobilized to stop this decision. So we're seeing a discrepancy between what our leadership class are implementing and what average working class everyday citizens want to see, the changes they want to see made.
Okay, I hear everything you're saying, but what I'm asking you is this. What is it now, what we've got to overcome now is what's trying to be taken away, so you won't be able to do nothing.
Yeah.
If that is allowed, if that comes to pass, and as you keep up what's happening in the world today, unless we get the people, the younger people, to realize how important it is to be involved, not talk about it, but be about it.
Yeah.
We've got to come up with something so that when you do get there, that then you can change these things. But at right now, all of that's being targeted to be taken away, to be more difficult
Yeah.
to even get there. So my point is, what are we going to do, young people, to get you more involved in what's happening? Do you want to be dictated to?
Nope.
How do you feel when you're dictated to? I understand where you're going. You ain't even got to say it. But what I'm saying is, that's what's being handed down now. It's dictatorship. Do what I say. I give you what I want. I have you do it any way I want to. How can we stop that?
Yeah.
We've got to put together a plan to get our young people involved. And the first step is to vote. Because if you don't make a voice there, and I think even to go back when you said something about the housing, the homeless, the underpaid, overworked, to get to capture that, what we got to do first to get there for that. And I think with those things there, why don't we build our own Black Wall Street here? It was once before. So what I'm saying, we've done this before in more than one place. And if you go back and we teach the history, it was taken and burned because we did not need that. But you see now it's the same thing happening all over again. So we're trying to educate our younger people to really take control, take the torch, to go out there so we can let them know, you may try, but you won't do it. You understand what I'm saying? Young people such as yourself, and I'm so pleased to see, I've seen 3 or 4. How many in this? I've seen several come out in this election. People of color.
Yeah.
That I'm so happy to see that you are seeing what's happening, that you want to make a change.
Yeah.
And with that, we got to keep on harping because, ladies and gentlemen, we got to educate, number one. Mm-hmm. Knowledge is power. If you don't have the knowledge, when I hear, that was a thing that was all over social media for the last several days about who did what. Mm. All the creations, all the things that were created, who did it? Thank you. Who did it? Okay? But the fact of it is, this is what I'm saying to our younger generation. We have got to make sure that you go out and be heard so that we can continue to support, so that when you get to this mature age of 25, then you will, you know what I'm saying, yes, that you understand, you can tell that person behind you. For those who walk that walk, even though that was back then, we still got to walk that walk today to keep going for tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, we still got to do it. We're talking about Miss Jasmine Brown, right? He was a candidate for mayor right here in our city. Young lady stepping out on, to do things to make a difference. So look, I want you to be a part of it right here on Sunshine's Corner.
For 75 years, we've been caring for families, creating jobs, and working to build a healthier community. This is your home, and ours too. We're honored to be the trusted partner in your care. Baptist Healthcare, here for you then, now, and always.
I'm Kathy Holsworth, Artistic Director at Pensacola Little Theater. Join me on the first Monday of every month at 7 p.m. for the Center Stage, where me and my artistic friends talk about all things on the stage and at the Clark Family Cultural Center. Join us, won't you?
Take a breath and step into something green. At Pensacola Seed and Garden, both of our locations are open 7 days a week, ready when you are. We don't just sell plants, we grow many of them right here with care you can see. And once you take one home, you'll find everything you need to help it thrive. Visiting from out of town? Discover unique exotic plants you can bring home, often for less than ordering online. Pensacola Seed and Garden. Grow something beautiful.
And welcome back to a conversation today with Jasmine Brown, who's a candidate for mayor. She was talking about things off the, I was going to say off the clock. I was thinking about something else, okay? As we talk about her candidacy and the things that you want to see changed right here on the Gulf Coast. And when it comes to voting, when I say that, we got to make sure that even for the general election, we got to make sure the young people know that when you make your decision on locally, that helps you for the general. Yep. Because if you got your local people here, it's going to make decisions. People up there don't watch you.
Yeah.
I mean, you understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
But this is the thing we got to do. But when it comes to how do you address certain neighborhoods with some of the things that they're going through, development displacement. And I know now before you look, there's a brand new house up, up in 3 or 4 days. How are you going to address that for people who can't afford those houses that's going in their places? Because some of those houses, $300, $350.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, big price.
The housing costs and the renting costs are so high right now. It's ridiculous. You know, it's to where people are even like comparing them to those rates of larger cities. You know,
But the pay ain't moving.
Yeah, it's stagnating.
The pay is going down, but the economy is going up.
Yes, and so you know, one of the main topic or the main platform campaign platform points that we have is to have a housing trust and to use public lands for public housing. And so right now, you know, you reach out for assistance, and there's these, you know, homeowner loan programs and things like that, and there's these certain resources for people. However, when you call, there's a years long waiting list. There's all these hurdles you have to go through to actually get onto the list. There's all these things that still bar you from having that, you know, that soon to immediate access, you know, and it's when you're looking at people who are facing like moving out of the city just in general to whole different areas because they can't live. People don't have, you know, years to wait. They're going to be evicted tomorrow. You know, people are needing.
Are there people out there going through that now?
Yes, I've spoken to people specifically who are like just in bad situations, who are, you know, from place to place, you know, shelter to shelter.
You've got to choose now if you want your medication, because if you go to the gas station, you can't afford the gas. The gas is $5. And I was listening to
Don't let you have kids.
I mean, hello.
Yeah.
And I was listening to an interview yesterday, and when it was said, oh, it's going to go up, but then it's going to come down. Really? It's going to be $7 before it come down? I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I mean, these kind of things that affect people.
We have to know how much of a crisis it is to deal with it as the crisis that it is. You know, years ago, I was going to city council with several other organizers to get the city to declare a state of housing emergency, because at that point in Florida, that was the only way you could get like rent control and eviction moratoriums and other types of rent control measures in the city. But ever since the Live Local Act with DeSantis has made it harder to have rent control measures. But things like that, you know, treating this with the urgency like the crisis that it is, instead of like these, you know, ad hoc bandages that we see. Sometimes these ideas fall through. We look at, you know, the Motor Lodge and, you know, different things like that, with where this crisis is not being treated with the urgency that it needs to be.
Right. Well, when it comes to that, ladies and gentlemen, these are things that's affecting us today. And if you're not keeping up, you're going to get left behind, because every day is something different. And I'm going to go this route on you. With the racism, how it's came back out so bold now, how would you handle that? How are you going to handle that being a black woman?
Yeah.
How are you going to handle that being a young black woman? With racism now, it's like it's just anything. You think you can just say anything you want to me and I'm going to be okay with it. Wrong answer. Yeah. How are you going to handle that now? Running for office, running for mayor, with it brought back on stories I used to hear my mother and father tell. I see it happening now. You see it on TV every day.
Yeah.
Think about the child, 14-year-old boy.
Yeah.
Didn't have to be killed, but they shot him in the back, but you got off free. The young lady a few years back before that, same thing with the orange juice. Let's go back to Trayvon Martin.
Yeah.
Come on, let's go back to Aubrey. Come on, it's so many.
Yeah.
How are you going to handle that now with racism being brought back up like it's a cup of coffee and thrown at you, and you're going for the high seat of the mayor? How are you going to handle it?
We know racism is here. We know it's prevalent. There has not really been an atonement for the severe, heinous racism that we've faced in this country, in this area, in this region. You know, back to the point of like people are looking for answers. The answer to some people might be racism. It might be that this person to the left or right of me, they look different. They must be getting more resources than me. I shouldn't be in the same neighborhood as them. They shouldn't be able to afford to go to school, and they're being fed all of this poison from these leaders who benefit from people pointing the finger left and right.
Would you say those leaders are racist?
I would say they use racism to their benefit. I would say they employ the tools of racism to get their constituents to vote the way they want to continue turning the issue that is racism, that that separates us. I think that racism can boost if you're racist, it kind of boosts your self-esteem. I'm othering that person. I feel better than them, and I've spoken to people, door to door. I don't discriminate on which doors I knock on.
Of course not.
One time I was organizing with this woman from, she was visiting from France. Her husband had a job here, and she was so scared we were going to knock on the door. Somebody's going to open the door with a shotgun. And I'm like, I was like, it's okay. We are in the South, and I understand your worry, but the racism is here, and it should be dealt with. And I want to be an example of, not an example of a model minority, but as an example of somebody who can bridge the gap for people. I mean, nobody should be left behind. Nobody should be facing eviction. Nobody should be, dealing with like a data center next to their house. Nobody should be, suffering the way all of us have in common. We are suffering in many common ways, and.
When that lady came and thought she had I can't get it out. When she had to have a gun. Thought she had to have a gun.
No, she thought somebody was going to open the door with
a gun.
Yeah.
Okay, now, how did that make you feel?
It made me. It was silly, but the South is stereotyped a certain way.
Not just the South, though.
Yeah, but the country, yeah, and we're stereotyped a certain way, and I just had to ease her mind. I have that fear too. I've done Amazon Flex working where you are in your personal vehicle, you drive up to people's houses, and I've been so scared. I've been in back roads, Cantonment, and deep in Gulf Breeze and Navarre, not just the beach side, but like the dirt road side. And I've had my package walking up being like, hey, scared, shaking, like, please don't shoot me. You got all these types of flags and stuff in their front yard. And the fear is there, the racism is here. We can still have conversations with those people. We can still, find common ground on certain things.
What do you plan to do to make that happen?
It's a long-term strategy. I mean, nothing's going to change overnight. Nobody's opinions are going to change overnight. Nobody's not going to be racist overnight. And I think dealing first with people's most basic needs can help us move on. I mean, encouraging more organization with each other. There's a statistic that union membership can lower people's racism towards other racial groups because they are working for and incentivized for a common goal. And I think more opportunities for people to have the resources that they need at the bare minimum, more community intervention programs where people can have opportunities to talk to each other and not bicker with each other online. Real life is not the Facebook comment sections. I'm able to talk to conservative people. I've talked to racist people. I've talked to people who have completely different political ideas than I have, but we are able to find common ground because we have so much more in common than we have not in common. The developer class, the ruling class, the people who pull the strings of our environment, of our conditions, those are the people that we don't have common interests with. Those are the people that we don't have any commonality with. We don't have shared experiences. We don't have shared visions for what we want our society to look like. And so, if you're racist, you might be a racist person who has a family that you love. I also have a family that I love. Right. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how we want to protect and give our family the resources that they need. And so really trying to break away from the pointing fingers, the blame game that we have been fed for so long, and trying to find common ground and unity, I think is the way forward. Having those conversations, being uncomfortable, you know, doing the boring work, building relationships, doing the tedious work, it's what we need. I mean, you can't fight fire with fire, you have to fight it with water. And so I think that's how we have to move forward. But fundamentally, resources and more opportunities for people to come together and not be so separated and siloed, because there's no way forward. There's no separation of groups that's gonna better anybody else.
Okay.
You know?
Now, with you being a black woman, let's say, okay, when you win, in that first year, what 3 things are you going to do to make a change? What's the first 3 things you're going to do when you win the election?
Yes, so top 3 things: establishing a renter's assistance office to where people can have legal representation, to where people can go and get information and resources on, you know, we've talked to people who have so many mold and mildew issues, and it's really like environmental hazards in their houses that are not being addressed, and like they should have legal representation. I forget what it's called, having just cause evictions, that's something that can operate out of that office. And so really we have such a large population of people who are renters rather than homeowners in the city. We still want to help our homeowners, but really putting some attention to our renters is really important, because that's a lot of us, especially in my age group. There's a lot of us. Many of us are not homeowners. Sorry, excuse me. Other thing is ending contract with ICE in our city. You know, it's terrible what ICE has been, how they've been wreaking havoc just across the nation, especially across the South. And so we're seeing families separated. Recently, there was just a vigil for, Orlin Hernandez Reyes, and he was a casualty basically from a deportation of his mom. And the third thing would be, you know, implementing more people-centered policies, so like a people's budget and
That's where I was going.
public participation policies implemented in the city. Again, you know, going back to not having people have opinions considered after the fact, being able to make the driving decisions in the city.
What's the budget that the city has, that the mayor is working with? I see those numbers he put out there all the time. How would you handle that budget?
Yeah, so, well, one thing that is worrisome that's coming down the line is the state homestead tax situation that's gonna possibly take away like $6 million from our budget for our public resources. You know, with thinking about who I would want to put into my administration, I mean, I would want to be an expert on it myself, but I know I would want to hire somebody who's more apt with the language and stuff like that. You know, we need to balance. We need to reorganize our budget, but we also need to have a balance of making sure that people's needs are being met first and foremost. That's the first primary need, is that people's basic needs are met. And reorganizing in a way that makes sense, and that is consulted with deep consultation with people in the city. Like, you know, going door to door, addressing specific needs in specific areas, and really balancing a budget that addresses people's needs and not in a way that does not make sense.
Okay. Have you dealt with on the west side, south side, east side, all those different areas?
Yes.
Because you're going to be over all of that. And when you prioritize with those, what would your system be? How would you handle that? Because you got to be equally to all of them. How would you handle that?
Yeah, so, you know, there are like fundamental things that can be demanded of the city, but there's also specific issues, you know, depending on the area that you live in. Like one area of the city might have more issues with flooding than another area. Okay. One area might have like lack of, you know, tree cover, or one area might be like in a food or a healthcare desert and things like that. And so I subscribe to social investigation, which is deep conversation with people, you know, and not just sending a survey to somebody's house, but talking to you. I mean, I've been invited in people's houses just like to sit with them and talk to them about, you know, how much they're spending on their housing costs and things like that. And so you know, really addressing most urgent issues first. Again, we need to treat urgent issues with the urgency that it requires instead of just, you know, there's people who come up to city council time and time again who try to address the flooding in their areas. And so, you know, really dealing with what is most urgently needed first, and then, you know, but deep consultation. Like we said earlier, dictation. I don't want to be dictated to. You know, I'm mayor tomorrow. I want to make good decisions for the city, but I'm not going to be up on high on a throne like, you do this, you do that, this is going to happen. And that's what we're trying to get away from. And so I really want to hear from the community, not in an imposed urgent way. You know, right now they're doing the block by block plan that's affecting East Side, West Side, and basically the urban core of the city. And I've attended some of those workshops, and, you know, people in the crowd, they kind of feel just like the wind's blown out of them. I mean, this has occurred many months ago, but with the community consultation, but people just really felt like the wind was blown out of them. There's like this imposed urgency of like, well, we need to have this, I mean, we only have the money for this long, or, you know, the deadline for a demolition or the deadline for this is coming up, so we need to make these plans now. And it's like, okay, well, why are we just now hearing about this?
I hear. Hold that thought. We got to take a break. We're going to come back to the urgency you're talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Ms. Jasmine Brown, who's a candidate for mayor right here in Pensacola. Stay with us.
Hey folks, Winston Lindsay here with Living Southern Homes in Bruton, Alabama. We just want to remind you our new show will be coming on at 5:30 on Mondays on Blab TV and also Thursday at noon. Don't miss these opportunities. We will see you then.
At FPL, we plan for storm season all year long. We're strengthening poles to better withstand severe weather. We're clearing lines to improve resiliency, and we're constantly training teams to act at a moment's notice. Because we're always working, always preparing. So when storms do hit, you can count on us. FPL, working for you every single day.
The Emerald Coast Utilities Authority's state-of-the-art materials recycling facility processes recyclables for communities throughout the region, lowering need for more landfills. This highly efficient recycling service accepts glass, paper, cardboard, plastics, aluminum, and more. But we need your help. Please make sure your recyclables are clean of garbage, food, and liquids. Also, please remember that plastic shopping bags, foam products, or yard waste are not recyclable. To learn more, go to livegreenecua.com.
Well, I think it's all about local, and I'm a big believer in local. So I think anytime you can carry a message out locally, it's important. And I think it's anytime the person that delivers the service can also deliver the message, which is unusual. You have the people that actually deliver the project doing the talking, and I think that's a huge difference, and really makes a huge value difference for the consumer. So I'm really just so grateful that we have this local opportunity with Blab TV. My name is Quince Dieter, and I am Blab TV.
And welcome back to a conversation we're having today. Ms. Jasmine Brown, she is a candidate for mayor right here in Pensacola. We're talking about everything that's going on now that you would be dealing with, and how we can get also to encourage people to go out to be heard, to encourage people don't accept anything, go for what you know that's right. Yep. You know what I mean? Don't let anybody just put anything on you, because that's the way they see it when it's not right. Because when I talk about culture, and with you stepping into that area, there are so many different cultures you're going to have to deal with. You were telling me about the numbers that you have researched and found out, all these high numbers that we're dealing with right here in Pensacola. Whew, it's so much that you got to do. Oh my, my heart goes to you, but I'm in support of all the young people who are doing it, okay? Yeah. Because I want to see more of us come out to make that. Why is it right now that, what can we make sure, how can we make sure that people are taken care of economically? I mean, to find jobs. Now when jobs are being taken away, something that's hit my head. How do you feel about this? We'll come back to finding the job with all the jobs that are being attacked on black women. How do you handle it? I mean, think about that. With you being a black woman
Yeah.
that's running for mayor.
We're in a weird place right now where the job market is really insane, where people are seeing all of these job openings, but then not getting callbacks, being automatically denied, and this is such a large issue with so many different aspects to it. I guess, to bring it down, to not go too far with it, like AI coming in and kind of reducing kind of some of the positions that we need in the job force and things like that. AI being what's checking screening people's applications, and so you might get an automatic denial because of the AI, for whatever reason.
AI, I've learned, is a tool that you can use to benefit to make you grow too.
Yes.
Do not allow AI to take anything, because AI still got to have a human.
Yeah, it's how it's being used.
Yes.
And so it's back to that like interest thing. Is who is using it, who is pulling the levers of power, because you can mold anything to be the way that you to benefit.
Exactly.
And so we need more incentivizing for businesses. We need right now, for example, with like the old Baptist site, a lot from what I've heard from like attending meetings and whatnot, of people are really wanting some like more workforce education opportunities for people, including a space dedicated to that in the new Fricker Center development.
Oh God, I can't
so
wait.
There's so many opportunities that we have to make to where we can to implement some more workforce education, workforce based housing and things like that for people in the city. Increasing transportation for people. I know right now we just got the Flex Transit in the county that's been widely popular. I've been seeing the vans everywhere around the buses around the city. And so, we have to address some of the barriers that people have to employment as well. Some people might not have access. There's people who are homeless and are working, and there's people who are homeless that might not have quick access to the documentation that they need to get a job. They might not have an address to put on file, and that's a barrier to entry to their job, to getting a job. There's transportation access issues, childcare and things like that. And so it's really difficult for people out there. And then, if you throw in trying to go to school in the mix of that makes it even harder. I have students who have to adjust their whole schedule because they cannot adjust their work schedule. They just won't let them do it. There's or have to withdraw or have to take on more classes that is too much for their load, but they have to take on more so they can, hopefully get a little extra financial aid eligibility to help with their bills. And so there's really addressing people's needs at the base level. It's not that people are lazy. It's not that people don't want to work. Maybe people don't want to work so much for such low wages, but people want to have something fulfilling to do. And we know that for sure. And so, really addressing the barriers to entry to the is going to be important for the city.
Okay. Well, we've talked about a lot today. We're down to the last 4 minutes, and believe it or not, see how fast it went by?
It's been a good conversation.
But we've talked about so many things that are at top of mind right about now that we need to make sure as a community that we get out and do the right thing.
Yeah.
Number one, ladies and gentlemen, you need to vote. I will say that till I'm blue in the face. That's going to take a lot. But we've got to vote. She's running for office, but you got to vote. She can't get in unless you vote.
Yep.
That's how important it is. What would you like to leave with our viewers before we leave? What's the last thing you'd like to say to them before we leave?
Yeah. So I'm really excited about this race. I'm really excited about the opportunities that we have and the people that we can reach. People have spoken to me, and they're really excited to see like a socialist on the ballot in Pensacola and southern Pensacola. I want with this campaign to be a tool for educating people and mobilizing people, whether it's mobilizing them to the ballot, not just during major election seasons, but all the time, being aware of who is in our leadership office in our city, being aware of who is doing the work in these community organizations in our city and things like that. Again, I've learned so much, and I still have so much more to learn. I want to encourage people to get in the field. It's not enough to be angry at something. We have to also put feet to fire and do something about it. And ultimately, I just want to say that, there can't be individual solutions to systemic issues. And so we have to be able to attack the crises that we face comprehensively, not just from one angle, and we have to bring everybody with us. People tell me I'm a leader. I don't want to just go around and boast, but I want to build more leaders. I want, with mobilizing more people to vote in addition to the other things they're doing in their community, to know that they can also be leaders.
Absolutely. 10 seconds. How can they get in touch with you?
Yes, so Facebook, Jasmine Brown for Mayor, Instagram, Jasmine Brown for Mayor, same email, same name. So yeah, I love to speak to anybody. I love to reach out and
make a difference.
Connect.
There you go.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's thank you for coming in today. Okay, I really, really appreciate you. I'm so proud to see such beautiful young people of color taking that step to make a difference right here in Pensacola. Don't let nothing or nobody turn you around. Don't let nothing or nobody turn you around. Yeah. You continue to grow, continue to make a change. Yeah. Change may not feel good, but it's so necessary.
Yes.
So continue to do that.
For sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a great conversation with Ms. Jasmine Brown. I want to say thank her for getting up and coming in today to talk about her vision for this area. I want you to get out, just talk to her, see what she's more about. Go to jasmine.brown, right?
JasmineBrownForMayor.com.
Okay, JasmineBrownForMayor.com. I said Jasmine.Brown. But go to her Facebook page. You'll find her there, and you can learn a lot. And I had a lot of conversation about her, so let's keep that positivity going. It is time for me to get out of here, but I want to leave you as I do every day, ladies and gentlemen, because I mean this from my heart. Never, ever, ever, ever lose your focus. Never lose your focus. Always remember, if you keep God first in whatever you do, don't ever take him out of the equation. Pray to him, talk to him, he'll guide you. Lead him that way, and I guarantee you'll be a total success. So until tomorrow, we've got Dr. Isaac Williams coming in tomorrow. Going to be talking with him right here on Sunshine's Corner. Until then, my friends, know that I love you with a perfect kind of love. Go out and tell somebody that you love them and mean it. Until then, keep shining while I'm gone. Have a great day. And thank you, Jazzy.
Thank you for having me.
All right, love. Bye for now.